Now we move into a PvZ between two great players who've actually been very closely tied together recently. In the top left, it is Basilisk Reynor, and in the bottom right, it is Big's ShoWTimE. ShoWTimE constantly almost the better player of the European region. At least, well, maybe not against Cyril, actually. But against Reynor is almost taking him down. Against Intermission is taking him down. Flash is almost taking him down. Against Clem, he's had certainly times where he looked like the most reliable Protoss, I guess, to actually take down Clem. Like, ShoWTimE has a lot of his career summed up as not quite as good as the top 3 European players, which is actually very sad. I don't know. This is a sad intro. But anyway, I didn't mean for it to be sad. I meant for it more to just be like, we're all waiting for him to actually cross that finish line. We're all waiting to be cheering at the end of it and then saying, yeah, you finally did it, and you're finally consistently top 3 Europe. But it is so damn difficult when Clem, Cell, and Reynor are as reliable as they are. But if there's one player who isn't as reliable as they used to be, it would probably be Reynor. Clem didn't exactly have the best showing at Katowice that I think he could have, but he did push through and get to the playoffs. And the weeks before that was also a little shaky, but, you know, the online cups and whatnot, maybe not as important, right? But Reynor is the one who had a very disappointing Atlanta and then an extremely disappointing Katowice. He actually did make a video detailing his experiences and what he learned from that and his future plans. If you wanted to go check it out, see the insight of a very high-tier pro player when something very disappointing happens, as well as him talking about going to Korea next GSL. But anyways, go look at that if you want to. But the point is, like, he is the one that is has most to prove. Cyril did very well at Katowice. Very, very well. Looked unbeatable. And he also did very well in Atlanta, only being defeated by Clem. Clem won Atlanta, playoffs in Katowice. It's the consistency over the last 2 months is not so much there for Reynor, although we know that it can be. This is probably one of the more disappointing runs of tournaments that Reynor has had in his career since he was, again, allowed to play in the DreamHacks back in 2018. So, yeah, that's kind of a bummer, but we know that he can get back to it. And in the grand scheme of things, it is basically a 2-month period. Atlanta and Katowice just kind of coming in one behind the other, really. So it's not the worst thing in the world. It's just that when he has been off his game for, let's say, a couple of months, it's usually been leading up to a major tournament, premier tournament, not so much at premier tournaments. So that's Reynor's proof right here. He wants to prove that he is as dominant as he ever was, or he could be once again. Now he's prepping for Dallas, GSL, and eventually the World Championships. And ShoWTimE, well, ShoWTimE actually would love to prove that at a point in which Reynor might be weakest, he could be stronger. And he really needs these points to get him above the hump of the World Championship, the European region point system. Currently has ShoWTimE as a potential going to the Esports World Cup, but I think he has to get a few more points to actually feel very confident. Yeah, because like Cyril and Clem both won tournaments that give them the direct seed, so now it's about the points for ShoWTimE. Anyway, so this is actually even bigger than usual, watching these open cups for the guys like a ShoWTimE or a Intermission, probably, who are looking at the European top 2 slots. I haven't talked much about the game, by the way, but there's a depth harassment into the Oracle, into the third base, and about as you would expect from a ZVP with ShoWTimE, who typically goes into this Oracle 3-base setup, very macro, very defensive, so on and so forth. And then for Reynor, well, he might go for a mid-game aggression, attack, all-in, whatever you want to call it, but we're not quite there yet. Wouldn't Intermission and Max Packs be closer? So that's why I'm not sure. Intermission might be higher up than ShoWTimE, which is why these points are so important. But then Max Packs is basically guaranteed not to go to an offline tournament. So that's why you just take him out of the equation. I'd love for that not to be the case, but nothing says that it'll be showing up anytime soon. Yeah, Oracle's gonna swoop in once again, and they've grabbed a decent number of drones that will cost 1 Oracle, however, and I'm not sure that's quite worth it. Oh, 9 for an Oracle? Oh, and also 4 depths, though. The 4 depths got popped. I don't know, actually. I don't know how ShoWTimE would feel about that, or how Reynor would feel about that. I think Reynor will feel that he could have stopped the Oracles from doing that much damage because the Queens were slightly out of position. So I think I know what he thinks is, like, livable, but not perfect. And for ShoWTimE, I wonder if he regrets sliding into that natural. Well, he still has 2 Oracles, and that will help, obviously, on the scouting. You only need 1 for scouting, but then also on the stasis traps, which might be important, depending on what Reynor's plan actually was, right? And that's something that can be very scary when you watch the creep spread start to get over the halfway point on hard lead, directed towards your 3rd base. If they are going for a big roach swell, then that could power up the attack even more so. That's not what Reynor's doing at all, actually. Reynor even got 2 evolution chambers right next to each other, so very much intending to both be used, you would think. Pretty sure. Eventually. And then is grabbing a Roach Warren at this time, so certainly not fast. And while the Oracles might have done some decent drone damage, they really have not done anything to this creep spread, have they? This is harrowing to see the creep tumor just 1 little hop away from encroaching on your 4th base. Now, with the process of expanding that Protoss is used, they do take this middle base, as you see here. It kind of makes sense that it gets claustrophobic very quickly, but nonetheless, yeah, maybe a couple killed would be nice. Yeah, okay. It's at least going to keep it off of the ramp. Adepts will trying to do some harassment, as well as some additional scouting. I think at this point in time, seeing the mass amount of drones at the 4th, you know that, there's really no attack that's been hidden. There are roaches piling up in the middle here that are suddenly about to surprise you, and so ShoWTimE does feel very confident about grabbing this 4th base fairly freaking fast. It's almost done. 7.5 minutes. And then also going into some pretty high technology, right? So very little aggression, no fake aggression really from either side either. The Stalkers literally just going out to kill 1 creep tumor and then saying, that's enough, man, we're good. And then building up into those Colossus and a supercharged economy. So one of the most macro games you can really find in PvZ, I think. For ShoWTimE, we expect it from him, but then, yeah, for Reynor, you might have thought maybe an attempted little 3rd base hit squad of Lings, maybe a 60-ish drone roach attack, or, well, he is still gonna go for an attack with pure roaches, but the Nidus Worm, I mean, he's still hitting at 8 minutes, actually, Jesus. The thing is, I guess really what it is that they just went so hard in the macro so fast that we're skipping a lot of the parts we might have seen in some other types of games, but we're getting right to the part in which a maxed out Roach army gets up against a Protoss army. And while the Roaches maxed out like this do look very concerning, ShoWTimE also has a good number of Stalkers. He's got 2 Colossus, he's got an Immortal that unfortunately might get bopped. It's going after Colossus though, instead the Colossus will be saved. And the Immortal got a fair few shots before it actually did end up going down. Reynor's attack looking so freaking strong when it started to come across the map, but actually ShoWTimE was right behind him. In terms of the macro, both of them were really supercharged. Unfortunately, it looks like ShoWTimE was still seconds too late to his Colossus, and seconds too late to actually being ready to defend his 4th base. If he had his Colossus, his Stalkers, and his shield batteries all on the front of this Nexus, it is no contest. He's also still getting the advantage of his chokes and ramps going up to that base. Unfortunately, the way that it goes, Reynor's attack was just so freaking feisty. I mean, completely maxed out, 77 drones at 8 minutes. These guys just actually bulldozed ahead, man. My entire vision of the game has been lost. But Jesus. Alright, so getting things back in order here. We can see that Reynor has just taken over the map, taken over the game, and will probably be on his way to victory, unless ShoWTimE can really start to show that Demower. That he is known for the wall. If he can set up the wall and get a 4th base back up and running, then I'll be a believer again. But, as he gets a 4th base up and running again, perhaps very soon, he'll also be up against a Zerg player that has more upgrades. He'll be even on upgrades at the very least. A Nidus Worm, a Lurker Den, a Hive, so Vipers as well. And, well, I just don't... I don't have a lot of confidence here. The good news is ShoWTimE really did save a decent number of units. I mean, the trades on the actual army weren't, I guess, as bad as they could have been. Still not great for a Protoss, who is losing more resources than the Zerg. That's not a good sign here. Well, maybe on gases, but still. He did save his Colossus, and he has been able to build up a very feisty stalker count. So he's almost maxed out, but I think this is just him going for an all-in, and that's why. So despite clearing up some creep spread, just really no chance to take down that 4th base. Here comes the potential surround from Reynor. It's a very important moment for ShoWTimE, who's obviously delaying or even just not getting a 4th base to do this, but then also is hitting before those Vipers are ready, and Reynor actually in some trouble here. Stasis Trap on the right side stopped this potential army from interacting, and the Lings on the backside also, some of them got trapped as well. Plus, I just don't think there was enough of them, with 3 Colossus still beaming down. Reynor also, I guess, maybe miscontrolling? Actually, that's just not an army. That's just not a big enough army. He has so many more army units coming out as reinforcements, but they are not ready yet. And now as they get ready, the Protoss army is taking an even scarier position. Once again, Reynor gonna try. Oh no, we're behind! Oh my god, he turned it into a good thing. He turned it into a good thing. We're good, guys. That disruptor shot was excellent, and ShoWTimE, with the all-in off of 3 bases, is maybe going to turn this around and actually get the win. 3 Colossus still in play here, 2 disruptors as well. The War Prism still alive, reinforcing with every last ounce of minerals and gas that ShoWTimE can muster. And ShoWTimE even has another hit squad that could be actually used here, but apparently he doesn't need it. He's got like 7 stalkers not doing anything, and he doesn't actually need it. 16 more roaches on the way. Cracklings are about to be involved. 2-1. The Vipers are here, and the Vipers might be able to save the day. 2 Colossus taken out of the equation, but aggressive blink forward as well, as ShoWTimE realized it's all or nothing right here. If he could just go ahead and F2, though, that would be so much more helpful. These 7 extra Stalkers would be so freaking useful, but the Colossus are dead. There's no more Disruptors, and the Stalkers are thinning out, and he never once F2'd, which is a real testament to his mechanics, but oh my god. Okay, there was 5 Stalkers, alright, maybe not that big of a deal, but still, 5 Stalkers missing. The Oracles could have been helping out as well, probably a little bit more, with more Stasis Traps, more Pulsar Beams, and it just didn't happen. And I think it's going to be it then. Oracle gets taken down to a Parasitic Bomb, actually. ShoWTimE not willing to give up quite yet. He knows that he was on the seemingly cusp of victory. He did force Reynor to start trading a lot worse in his desperation to hold on. So he's hoping that because of that, Reynor doesn't have the big, overwhelming reinforcement line that suddenly just makes this a no-brainer, right? And he's kind of right. Reynor is struggling to remax, but nonetheless, still got the Lurkers, still has the Vipers, and still has a 30 army supply lead. Did just lose that hatchery. ShoWTimE able to snipe that before evacuating, but Reynor does have another 4th base ready to go, and while 70 drones will go ahead and mine through that fairly quickly, they're not... Oh gosh, they're good to go right now. Lurker is actually going down to a very aggressive blink forward. ShoWTimE, I mean, trying to bring out his inner hero right now. Just aggressive, jumping on top of the Lurkers. Another jump on top of the Lurkers. Both of them going down here. The Stalker's taking so much freaking damage, and Roaches from behind actually causing huge problems with the Cracklings as well. The Stalker's caught in a very awkward place. Some of them somehow surviving, but many of them injured, weakened, and unable to escape the wrath of the Lings. More reinforcements coming through, but ShoWTimE is almost out of cash, but then so is Reynor. ShoWTimE with a bunch of gas. If only he could afford a Templar Archives, a couple of extra Archons would go a very long way, especially if Reynor was depending a lot on those Lings. Now, he's not necessarily doing that. We do have Hydras on the way, hoping to turn into more Lurkers, but I mean, Archons will still be helpful there too, right? Viper's actually abducting single Stalkers. Looks like a mistake. Oh, but that is a mistake. That is absolutely a mistake. Both Stalkers, both Vipers being taken down by the Stalkers. I was gonna say, abducting single Stalkers in this low econ scenario actually was not that weird, but then losing both Vipers, obviously just a big mistake. And now Reynor seems like he's built enough of an army. He's got the Lurkers back into play. He's got enough army to protect the Lurkers, which has really been the problem in the last 60 seconds. And ShoWTimE is pretty much, well, again, out of luck. GG. Damn, that got kind of close, though. That was me as a non-believer for the majority of that game. And a couple of spikes of surprise. And, aggressiveness that you just don't expect from ShoWTimE, you know? You think, okay, well, this guy's going to choose the safer path. He's going to choose the macro path. He didn't. He went for the 3 base all-in. It was exactly the right thing to do, but he wasn't able to hit the sore spot of Reynor's production line fast enough. He was so close to doing it. I'm not even sure he could have been faster. Maybe if it was Hero, he would have been a little faster, he would have pushed a little harder, and he might have gotten on top of the reinforcement line, which maybe would have killed Reynor. We can't say that, because Hero is the best offensive Protoss in the world. But I really don't think ShoWTimE was that far behind. Like, I think he was doing exactly what he needed to do, but not quite good enough. And then, on top of that, he didn't just tap out. He tried to be very aggressive. He tried to go for his inner hero, blinking on top of lurkers, finding situations in which the Zerg player is just as confuddled as you are, and it was close to working. If Reynor had not had that 5th base that turned into a 4th, a fresh 4th, ShoWTimE might have won. But that was a very important injection of minerals for Reynor, who just needed that critical mass to protect a handful of lurkers for him to just straight up beat the Stalker army. That was the only thing that was missing during that tumultuous back and forth, was that the lurkers were a little too independent. Alright, after a surprisingly close game 1, on the bottom right we do have Reynor. Top left it is ShoWTimE. I was doing some math with the help of Twitch chat, so, you know, in the first game I was talking about both players, and ShoWTimE's, you know, not quite there. Seems to always just be a little behind the top 3 of Europe, which is considered Reynor, Serral, and Clem, but then also those who can contest them too, such as a Max Pax, and a Here Marine, and even a Spirit. But to really put that in perspective, we do have to talk about the EPT points. The Esports World Championship is happening in the summer of this year, after DreamHack Dallas. So obviously DreamHack Dallas is going to be the thing that most people are prepping for right now, because it's going to give points, and that's going to give seeds. So it's going to give the actual slots into the Esports World Cup. But say no one actually wins from the European region. Let's just say that, right? No one wins those spots in the European region. Serral and Clem have the spots, and they're top 2. And then Reynor is 3rd in points. So right now, as it stands, he would be going to the Esports World Cup based off of his European regional points. Max Pax is 4th, but doesn't go to offline tournaments, so kind of take him out of the equation. 5th is Here Marine, so Reynor and Here Marine look like they're good to go if nothing extreme happens in Dallas. And then we have Spirit, who's 6th, and ShoWTimE, who is 7th. The difference between ShoWTimE and Spirit is 100 points. That's something you can absolutely gain if you really start to pop off in these open cups. But then he's like 300 points away from Here Marine, who had one hell of a Katowice run that no one really expected. So that's a little farther out of reach, but it is possible if he does a little better at Dallas as well. And there is a chance, a very realistic chance, that Reynor does grab the spot from Dallas, which then gives another spot to the European regionals. I know it's all a bit hard to follow as far as the vocal explanation, but I'm really trying to just hone in on these open cups for a while. Just really are like, oh, okay, cool. Maybe someone gets a slightly better seed in a qualifier or regional or something like that because they have a couple of more points thanks to the open cups. But mostly we're still looking at who is just the better player, who gets a deeper run in the more premier tournaments. But when you start to inch closer to the actual World Championship, then you really start to go, oh, hold on a second. These points, every 10, 20 points, actually matter a whole heck of a lot. So you start to see players really put their all into these open cups. They stop streaming, you know, if they used to stream them. They start watching other people's performances in the open cups and rooting for him to lose. You know, like ShoWTimE should be constantly rooting for Spirit to lose before he hits top 8, because top 8, I think, has points. Yeah, points and money still, I think. So, yeah. So, like, this is where things can get kind of exciting. And even though Dallas is where most of the points really are going to be fought after, it would not be the first time that the spots leading to a premier tournament were determined based off of activity in the Open Cup. So it's pretty cool. But besides that, we also have the storyline of basically Reynor proving that he's not slouching, he's not slumping. He has a couple of bad tournaments, but he can get right back up on that horse. And for ShoWTimE, he just wants to prove that he deserves to be called top of the European region. I got Lings entering into a main base, however, and that's not good news for ShoWTimE, who was trying to go for, a sneakier build. Twilight Council coming in after the Stargates. Now, that third Nexus being delayed was already a bit of a hint, right, for Reynor, who's like, okay, what are you actually doing? But then for Reynor just to get the full-on scout, that's just unideal, right? For the Protoss player, a little bit of ambiguity, of mystery, makes the romance stay alive, right? And there's no mystery. Emphasis on the Twilight Council, emphasis on the gateways, a little less emphasis on the third Nexus. Means that ShoWTimE might have a couple more stalkers out and about on the map than you might expect, but the consequence of a later economy. And if the Zerg player knows that there could be a couple more stalkers with maybe faster blink as well, then they're not going to be shocked by it. They're going to get an appropriate number of Lings, and then an appropriate number of Roaches, and then do the Zerg thing, which is the balancing act between army and economy. In ShoWTimE's ideal world, Reynor's not exactly sure what's going on. He's like, well, that third base wasn't as fast as it could have been. Why don't you have triple Oracle already? And maybe tries to pump out an extra 8 drones instead of these 8 Roaches, and then the Stalkers somehow find a moment, right? But absolutely not the case here. In fact, the Stalker numbers clearly just not very impressive. They are actually also out of position. Nothing there to defend the pylon. Won't supply block ShoWTimE as the Nexus does finish anyway, but it's annoying to build a pylon and then shield battery if you need it. Obviously, these Lings can't do very much else. And that blink is going to be done lickety-split. I mean, so much more often if we see a normal PvZ, such as the one we saw in the last game, it is 2 Gateway, Stargate, 3rd Nexus, Twilight Council, Forge, or maybe just Twilight Council, but still. And, then whatever else, last game went to Colossus. But in this case, the blink's already done. Stalkers will be more aggressive than they were in the last game. Remember, they only killed a single creep tumor that was encroaching on their 4th anyway. In this game, they're going to find an Overlord. Not too much else as the Oracle isn't around to do it. Hey, one Oracle already died. Don't lose the second one. That's just what I was checking. The second Oracle did die. Flew over too aggressively. This is not actually a very good game at all for ShoWTimE. Oof. Ouchies. The good news is, Reynor did take the... Oh, I was going to say he took the threat seriously, but you know what? He's actually just going for a bunch of units. Never mind. I was like, the good news is, Reynor doesn't have a super powerful economy. Well, there's reason for that. And that is not because he was scared of a medium, or not even, a small amount of stalkers. It's because he's going for his own attack. His creep strat won't be as impressive as it was last game, but he will still be attacking very quickly with a lot of units with Roach speed and +1 done. That last game, he was completely maxed out, attacking into his opponent's 4th at 8 minutes. This time around, not quite maxed out, not quite with as much creep spread, but he is getting into his opponent's 4th base at 7.5. And the Roaches are actually going to look for a little bit more. Not satisfied with just canceling the 4th Nexus. They think they got an opportunity to jump on top of these Stalkers, which they're very close to it with the help of the Lings. That will absolutely do it. Storm is not done. Stalkers are not ready. Shield battery wasn't even really helping out, and that will be that. Reynor